Hey everyone, this is Gleb Bakhmutov, and in the previous videos I've shown how to create new items, get back the item ID and the title, and then find the item and confirm the unique ID the application assigns to the item is present in the data attribute. So in this case we created this item and we found it, and the data to do ID attribute was exactly what we expected to find because we asked the application what was the ID in the object sent by the application to the backend. Now we use callbacks, and then we use a chain of commands, and then we use aliases to send that value back to the test. For example, right here we are getting the value of that ID through an alias that the page object code set. So if we look at this code, for example, it intercepts the network and gets the ID from the network call. And this mechanism of passing data from the page objects to the spec it works. It can pass multiple values like we're doing it right here. Unfortunately, it's a little bit unyieldy, and people probably want something simpler, something where you can just say await execution and then you get back value. And I want to change how this problem even is posed. Why do you need to await a value from the application? Only because the test itself doesn't know it. If the test knew the ID, then it would be so easy to say this attribute should have this value. Instead, we have to ask the application, what is the value? And volume could be completely invalid, and yet we would just keep checking it right here. So in this video, I want to show a much better way. I want your test to control the data the application uses, and in that case, you don't need to pass data or await data at all. Here's what we can do, and I'm just gonna run this test. So we'll say creates a to-do item with non-random ID, because before it was random. And we can still use some of the page objects. So I'll say to-do page visit. And I could get the title to be random. And in this case, we can just reuse the same method. It's just the same code to create random text using low-random. And typically we would say to do page add to do, and we could say title. But before we do that, we need to know how the application is creating those random IDs. So if I look at the app, I can see that it creates a new to-do object with the title that you entered, completed false, and the ID comes from random ID function, which is a private function we cannot easily access. But inside that function, it uses a global math object, and it calls the random method. And if you've never seen the math random, let's play with it in the DevTools console. Every time you call it, it just returns a different floating point number. And our application code then gets this floating, converts it to string, and chops the first two characters. So it chops 0 and dot. Great. Here's what we can do. From the Cypress test, because it runs in the same browser, we can do the following. Before we add to do, we have to prepare. We can get the object, what is the window. So we get the window. Then we can use the stub and say window.map, because every global object is a property on a window object in your JavaScript browser. And we can say random and return the same number. And it's only a problem if we're creating multiple to-dos, but in our case, we'll create just a single one. So if this is the number, then the expected to-do is a string 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 9. So once we added a to-do, we can find it, and this is the expected value of the attribute. So let's see how it goes. Perfect. Notice the last element that it created has the data to do ID with that string that we know will be exactly the same. We don't have to get it from the page object, we don't have to read it from the network, nothing. we know it's going to be exactly that again and again and again. So we run it again. It just creates an item with a random title, so we can find it without resetting the data, and the value ID that we control. And having a random title is no problem because that's what's under control from the test. For more, watch my videos on my YouTube channel and read my Cypress blog posts.